All right, how's it do, everyone? I'm Nima. Welcome to today's lecture. So, dope. We're gonna hop into this thing. Let me hide the code I've written so far. There you go. So, oh, you're late. I can't believe it. No, welcome. So welcome to week 1, day 5. We have Calgary, hi Calgary. Ask questions, I will answer. I sometimes forget to take a look at the Slack channel, so I've had someone, actually I didn't catch your name, Michelle, had Mish take a look at the Slack channel, so I'll be responsive. Yeah, welcome to week 1, day 5. How's your first week of boot camp so far? Nice, I'm seeing some thumbs up, a good. I heard somebody say sucks. Uh, I mean, everybody here seems pretty optimistic, which is good. You just have to do this like 9 more times, right? And don't worry, like it only gets harder, right? So it's, yeah. No, I mean it's gonna be good. I think, there's like a lot of stuff to learn, but it builds on top of each other. So you're not like learning completely new stuff every time. And today's lecture is comparatively a bit like simpler than some of the other ones you do. So just a couple notes about what today's lecture is like. We're going to be doing some live coding. Cool, we've seen live coding before, probably. Now, I don't want you to focus on like replicating the code that I'm writing on your computer for a couple reasons. Our first is, I'm going to write some stupid code. I don't want you to get into the habit of writing stupid code. I'm going to fix the code, right? Then you can look at the fixed code and be like, that's good code, right? So that's the first reason. The second is that today's lecture is more about understanding and learning like deeper concepts of app development, right? You're not going to learn a lot of new JavaScript today, right? So that's a good bit of pressure off your head. I'm not going to throw like donuts of JavaScript out at you. We're just going to learn about patterns of software development. Yeah, so that's a little bit high level of what we're going to do. Just in feeling, what we're specifically looking at is modules and testing. Like, wow, those are words. Yeah, we're going to explore those words. We're going to see what module means. We're going to see what testing means. There's no like pop quiz. It's not like that kind of test. Although, heads up, you do have a test later today, like a mock test. So we'll talk about that later. All right, let's see. Where do we want to start? Let's start off with some lingo. I like citing my sources. So wait, first of all, did I say who I am? No? Yeah, I'm Nima, right. So I'm Nima. I lecture here sometimes. And I mentor as well, so you'll like see me. I think I was like prowling around yesterday, helping a little bit. Maybe not prowling. I was like walking around, like very out helping. Anyways, I like citing my sources. I encourage you to do the same. So sometimes in my lectures, I'll have something I'm very proud of, but I'll have to take a minute and go like, hey, shout out to David, not David, because I stole this part of the lecture from David. Okay, so I'm gonna start off with some vocab, because we all like starting off with vocab at the beginning of the day. Here's a word, API. What does API stand for? Application Programming Interface. Okay, cool. What does interface mean? What you interact with. Okay, so application programming interface. If you were to boil this down, it's something like there's interaction in there for interface. Okay, how would you explain this to a layperson, right? Or to me, if you already know what it is. If you don't know what it is, just throw out a wild guess. What you actually see and use? Okay, what you actually see and use. Made from someone else's framework. Yeah, we'll keep it in there. Yeah. What else? What other words? Cool. Okay. Allows you to talk to an already existing program and implement that stuff into your code. Okay, cool. Actually, yeah, I'd say this last one is probably like I mean, they're all pretty good. This one's like the all-encompassing best one. Allows you to talk to something that already exists, right? And lets you implement their stuff into your code. So the theme of part of today's lecture, the theme of most of my lectures is be lazy, right? Like, don't reinvent the wheel. Use other people's solutions, except for when you're doing exercises. Like, if you're working on an exercise, do it yourself. But if you're working on work, right? If you're working as a developer, just use other things, right? Don't spend too much energy, right? And we'll see why. Like, we'll see what is good about taking other people's work and incorporating into yours, right? Following this pattern. So an application programming interface is a bit of like a vague, what's that? Oh, did they respond? Yes.
We have Kenzie who said how programs talk to each other.
Nice, how programs talk to each other.
She was the platform that code and talks to code.
The platform. Okay, and talks to code. Okay, cool. I actually really like this one, how programs talk to each other. Because an API, right, this is one of these words that means a couple different things. You're going to have to get comfortable with like words meaning different things in different contexts. So interface allows us to communicate between two different things, right? If I'm communicating with my computer, do I take out like a magnetized needle and I like really go to the hard drive and I'm like flipping the ones and zeros? Probably not. Like, I interface with the computer through the keyboard, right? So the keyboard's like my interface between me and the thing, right? If I want to talk with you, like, my interface is my voice to your ears right now, right? Two programs might be interfacing with each other independently. Like, I'm not making it happen, they're just talking, right? And something sits in between them. We'll call that the application programming interface, right? I might want to talk with a very complicated program. And the person who developed that very complicated program might have developed something simple that sits in between me and that very complicated program. That's also an application programming interface. This feels a little weird, right? And we'll like unpack this idea. But generally, we'll say an application programming interface, right, allows stuff to talk to other stuff. And that stuff maybe, stuff equals, people maybe. Stuff can also equal programs, maybe. Right? Very vague, very vague. Okay, so we got API, and I'll keep coming back to this definition of API and refining it as we kind of go along. Now, let's see. For our purposes today, the API is going to be something that sits between complicated code and the code that we write so that we can use that complicated functionality without having to worry about the complexities, right? I like saying the problem's over there. Somebody's already fixed that problem, so I'll just use their solution. Okay. And the word that we can use for that is module. I say module because we're taking a big solution, right? We're putting a nice bow around it, packaging it all up, right? And I'm telling you, hey, here, this is how you use it. Don't worry about how it works on the inside. I've modularized all this stuff. Nice little package, right? Just use it. Just don't worry. It's gonna work, right? So that means I'm gonna have to, let's see, do a bunch of work somewhere. Some work has to have been done somewhere, right? Come up with a nice API, right? Which means a nice interface, right? To use the work. And then if I want to use that work, I have to import that API into my own stuff. So some work has been done. I come up with a nice API for that, and then I can import that API into where I want to actually use that complicated stuff, right? I use the word import, also use the word require. Right? Because require is what we're going to be working with in JavaScript right now. Require as a word is our version of importing things into our word. So does anybody here have a background in any programming before this? Cool. So have you done like C++ and stuff?
Yeah.
So you've used like imports, right?
Yeah.
Right. The idea, do you want to give your take on this?
You're importing like code from external sources.
Mhm.
So you reuse it.
Cool. There you go. So I wanted to see if you'd use the word reuse, right? There's multiple reasons for why we'd want to import code from external sources, right, or from like a different file, right? So that we can keep reusing that solution in different places without having to redefine things, right? So let's as a silly example, here's one program where I'm doing some work. I have a program. This is about dogs. So I have var dogs equals spot and Daisy and Floof. I have very good dog names. So you have 3 dogs over here, and then I'm like, oh, hey, how do I get the sum of all the dogs, right? I want to count how many dogs there are, right? Assume there isn't a counting arrays function. Like let's just assume there isn't one, and I'd have to like make one. Be like, oh, okay, well, up here maybe I'll make a function count dogs with some logic for counting all the dogs. Okay, cool. And then over here I might go, hey, count dogs, and this counts out to 3. Cool. Now, say I have another file that's very similar. This one is this one instead is counting cats. So I'm just replacing everything to cats. Some cat names: Felix, Ronald, and Jasmine. Okay, how do I count all of the cats? Okay, well, I guess I have to use my count cats function, which also just counts all the cats. Now, this thing here, count cats and count dogs, functionally the same. They're going to do the same thing, right? So why would I make the same function for like 2 different scenarios if I'm really just solving the same problem? When what I could do is somehow go, hey, let's make another file where I'm going to save like a count animals. Oops. I'll make a count. Whoops. Count animals. That's going to count arbitrary animals. Now, I know I didn't put in like parameters and stuff for this. I'm like pseudo-coding this, right? Count some arbitrary animals, and then I would like to, instead of having to go count dogs, let's somehow import the count animals function into here, right? So it would be something like var count animals, equals something from that file, which I've called up here count animals.js. So count animals.js. Now, this isn't real code yet. It's not real code, right? But I would like to do something like this, where I can then go, hey, count animals. And this saves me a lot of time. Maybe I work at a company that wants to count a bunch of different animals. I'm like, okay, counting opossums, counting koalas, just make one counting function. Okay. Do we get this idea? Cool. So we can define our own modules for this stuff. Now, I'm not in love with this counting animals idea. I want to come up with something a bit cooler. I like kind of theming my lectures around stuff. And what I've themed a lot of my lectures around is Kanye West. Now, I'm getting a lot of blowback from that. Kanye, he didn't do me a solid. Like, I made a lecture for him, and then he went and said a bunch of weird stuff. So I'm like, okay, I got to come up with new things. So what we'll do is, I was going to do Kid Koala, but then nobody knows Kid Koala. It's good hip hop. What we'll do instead is we're going to go to Rap Genius. And Rap Genius is a website where people host like lyrics to, songs. And then you can click on some of the songs and like lyrics, and they'll give you like explanations or annotated stuff for the lyrics. And there's one specific page where they have like a bunch of ad libs for all these different artists. You'd be like, oh hey, like what are Kanye's ad libs? He has ha. Okay, cool. All right. Yeah. So, Kyle, whoever Kyle is, King Wavy, right? So what we'll do is we'll pick a couple ad libs, we'll put them in some functions, right? And we'll use this stuff. There's gonna be like literally no purpose to doing this. So we'll go, hey, okay, I actually really like Lady LeSure. I don't know if, yeah, it's like grime. So I'll make a hip hop folder, and in this folder I'm gonna say, hey, okay, let's make a function that goes adlibs, takes in a name, and it'll return the relevant adlib. Okay. So it might be something along the lines of, hey, if name equals Lady LeSure, or I think it's like Leisha, but like Lesher. But she pronounces it as like Leisha, isn't it? Yeah. Leisure? Okay, I guess you're right. I shouldn't pick stuff without knowing. If it's Lady Leisure, then we'll go. Does anyone want to try out this? I can't ad lib for the life of me. Yeah, there is an ad lib, and we'll say, okay, well, what if the name is something else, like, Migos. I like Mos Def. We'll say Mos Def has, yeah, bucka. And haha. Like I don't know how haha counts as as an ad lib, but all right. We'll go if the name is Mos Def. Then we'll return bucka. Whoops, else if. And then we'll do one more, else if name equals, and let's see, we're gonna do Nikki. Okay, Nikki has Kya. Okay, so we got some ad libs in here. I always mess up the spelling of Nicki Minaj. There you go. I like throw a Y in there where it doesn't really like belong. Yeah, and otherwise we'll just do an else for otherwise return none found. Or here, you know what? We'll pick my signature ad lib, which is what's that? No, I'm not gonna do that. Hey, what's up? I'm Nima. This is I don't sell very many albums. This is my ad lib. Just in the middle of any break, I'm like, hey, what's up? I'm Nima. Welcome. Yeah. Do you like JavaScript? So here are my ad libs, and I can ad lib. I can go, hey, let's ad lib on Mos Def. Cool. Let's ad lib on Mos Def. And if I was to go into my terminal, I could say, hey, let's go and I've named this file hiphop.js, so I can run it by going node hiphop.js. Right. So what did I do wrong? Why didn't it print anything? I didn't console log it. So I might go like, hey, Mos Def lib, and then like Mos Def lib equals this thing, and then I'll console.log the Mos Def lib. Okay, now we're gonna see something pop out. Bucka. All right, I didn't have a lot of force behind that. I'm not a good ad libber. So we've console logged this stuff. Nothing particularly stunning about this, right? This is what I mean about you're not gonna learn new JavaScript today. I didn't whoa, did you know you could use a pound sign to whatever? No, this is just vanilla kind of if else. Okay. Now, if I want to use this in a different place, because I might want to separate out the logic of how my thing works and me actually using. I shouldn't do this because Calgary doesn't see this. If I wanted to separate out the logic of how this adlib function works and me actually using it, right? I'd put these into different files. right? Because generally, these are two separate things. Like I'm defining how something works, and then I'm using it, right? I want to use it in more than one place, right? Let's split this stuff up. So I'll take this part here, the most def lib, where I'm using it. I'm just going to move this to a different place, which I'll call app.js. Okay. Wow, good for me. All right, I moved it to app.js. I go ls. I have, in my files, I have app.js and I have hiphop.js, right? What happens if I go node app.js now? Right, so it might be like most deflib is undefined or adlibs is not a function. It's adlibs is not defined, right? Not a function. We can't use it, right? Just because they're in the same folder doesn't mean that they can see each other, right? I have to explicitly connect them. Now, Node is cool. In Node, every file is a module, right? So hooray, we don't actually have to define our own modules because every file in Node is a module. And what a module lets us do, right, is import things. And what would the opposite of importing be? Exporting things, yeah. So I might go, hey, in here, well, we said, okay, we'll do something along the lines of require. So I'll go, hey, var adlibs equals require. And this is the syntax that we're going to use. You're going to say require, and then we'll put in the path to the thing that we're requiring in quotes, dot, slash, and then the path to it. So mine is called hiphop. And we don't need to go hiphop.js. We just go dot slash hiphop, right? So dot slash hiphop, and that's the path to my hiphop folder. If we want to look at this structure here, I've got app and hiphop right next to each other. Cool. And then over here, I'm going to have to export out the thing, right? Export. Now, I've like loosely said, in Node, everything has access to importing and exporting. What that's going to look like for us right now is it's going to be, let's see, let's do this. Let's go exports.adlibs equals adlibs. Okay, so when we're working in Node, we have access to some global things, right? We have access to some things that we haven't defined ourselves, right? One of them is console. Like, do you ever remember writing the code that actually goes and displays stuff on the screen? No, like we just go console.log, right? And the people at JavaScript blessed us with console, right? Like they came down and they're like, here you go, console.log, right? And we're like, thank you, right? I didn't have to do any work, awesome, right? So console is one of those things that we didn't have to define, but is there for us. Another one of those things that we don't have to define, but is there for us is exports. Now, I'm gonna hop into Node just for a sec to demo a couple things. Boop, okay. I'll go console.log, and let's go exports. What is exports? Oh, snap, I shouldn't have done that. Okay, I'm not gonna do it in Node. I'm gonna go over here. I'm gonna go console.log exports inside of app.js. So let me just, like the only script here is just exports like that, and I can go node app. Okay, so I'm console logging out exports, whoop, exports, and the output is, what is that? It's an empty object. Cool, okay. So exports is apparently some random empty object. Okay, I'll tell you that we also have access to this require thing, because I just wrote it. Like I just wrote require. So let's console log it first to see what require is. Let me console log it. Whoa, okay. Oh my god. It's this whole big kind of thing. But by looking at this, can we kind of start to see what this might be? Give you a second to just kind of like rip some words from here. Like what could require be? If I've console logged it, like what word do we see repeated more than once? Function, right? So require is a function. We really wanted to make sure, how do we get the type of something in JavaScript? Type of. I think it's an operator. Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah. The type of require is a function. Cool, okay. Type of? Okay, yeah. Well, my computer's gonna burn. Actually, it gives me a syntax error. So, yeah, syntax error. It's too real. Right, so type of that. And we also have a type of a thing called module. Can a blender. Right, we also have a thing called module, which we're gonna play around with. And module is some kind of object. And if I was to actually just console log out the entire module thing, like whatever that is, it's some big old object, right, that happens to have exports in here. Oh my God, what? Okay, so the things that I've like loosely written out are we have something called require, we have something called exports, and then we have something called module, and inside of module, there's a module.exports. That's what we're looking at here. Could it be that module.exports and exports are the same thing? Well, I don't know. Let's see. How do we check if two things are like equivalent? And triple equals, yeah. In JavaScript, we'll go, hey, is exports triple equals? I went 4 because I went extra hard. Triple equals module.exports? Well, let's see. What do we hope comes out of running this right now? What's that? Yeah, Boolean. Like either true or false, hopefully. And it's true. Yeah, what? Oh my God. All right. So exports is just a reference to module.exports for us right now. Why did I show you all of this? Because we can now go var adlibs equals require.hiphop. And on this end here, if we do exports.adlibs, what we can do is store things inside of this exports. Right? So adlibs. And then over here on this side, we'll take in anything that other file exports. So if I go ahead and I console.log adlibs right now, let me comment out this stuff so I just don't spam the thing. I'm getting an object with an adlibs property. That's the function adlibs. Right? So what I've done here is I've required the exports from hiphop, and the exports in hiphop happen to have an exports.adlib. Right? So if I really wanted to get adlib on this side, right, I can't just use it as it is right now. Yeah, it's an object, right? Adlibs is currently not a function. I actually want the .adlibs property inside of that thing. Cool. Bucka. Actually, I guess it's bucka. That's confusing. Yeah. Right, I'm using a function that wasn't written in this file. It was exported from the other file. But again, I had to like go into it as a property like that. This is kind of ugly, right? I would rather maybe just do this, right? Say var adlibs equals require./hiphop. So then I don't have to like pull it out by property, right? What we can do in the exports here is instead of going, we can't do this. We can't go exports equals adlibs, because then this replaces where exports actually lives, right? This is like an object. It's actually technically module.exports, right? So if we want to change the value inside of this, right, without like mutating it to somewhere else, we're going to have to go module.exports equals and then set it to a new object, right? So then our exports thing still lives inside of module, right? So you'll see this written a lot. It'll be module exports equals and then an object. And then in here we can put whatever we want. We could say, okay, I'm going to be silly again, and I'll go module exports equals adlib, and then this is an object, so I can go property adlib, and the value of that is property adlibs. The value of that is adlibs. This again on this side, I would still have to go .adlibs, right, to pull it out. So what I'll do instead is, instead of setting module exports equal to an object, I'll just set module exports equal to adlibs. So I'm just exporting that entire function on its own. When I require it in, this gets set to that function, and I can use it. And I can say, OK, let's do most deflib. Instead of putting this into its own thing, let me just do it all as one line. Does this confuse anyone, this one line? Just want to make sure that that's not weird for anyone. Right? So I'm console logging the immediate result of adlibs of most def. Right? So now I can do the same thing for Nicki Minaj. Cool. Bucka, bucka, bucka. And yeah, sure. Right? And that's cool. That's dope. I can do some more things. I could say, let's see, process dot arg v2. So I'm console logging whatever I'm putting into the terminal. This is how we get like the console input, process.argv2, unless I wrote it wrong. I mean, let's see. I'd have to go node app.js, and then I can say, who are my people? Most def, Nicki Minaj, Lady Leisure. Snap. There you go. I passed it in through the terminal, and it comes out properly. Right? That's cool. We're getting more modular, right? Getting modular. We can make as many modules as we want. Import this stuff, export this stuff. You can make modules that import things and then also export stuff out, right? Get crazy with it. So let's see. Is there anything else I want to show off of that? Not yet, maybe. But are there any questions? No. That's a great question. So here's my function called. Oh yeah. Oh right. The question was, are modules limited to only having functions as properties, right? And the answer is no. So what we can do is, hey, here's an object called artists, and my artists. Actually, let's make this like an array of a bunch of different artists. Cool. And we'll say, okay, here's Kanye West. Who are some other? I mean, well, John Lennon's like a rapper, right? And Kendrick Lamar. Okay. 2 R's. 1 R. 1 R. Damn. Well, I know his middle name's Duckworth. I know that. Oh, Hedy Lamarr. Yeah, that's an actress. Yeah. Well, so we have artists, this whole thing, and say I wanted to export out also all these artists, I could go module exports equals this object, and I'll say, hey, if you want to get the artists, here are the artists. Right? If you want to get the adlibs, here are the adlibs. Right? And then on my app side, I might say, hey, instead of var adlibs equals require hip hop, let's just do var hip hop. Whoops. Var hip hop equals require hip hop. And if I want the adlibs, I'll do var adlibs equals the hip hop adlibs, right? And if I want the artists, then get me the hip hop artists, of whom, John Lennon is one, apparently. And I can do things like console log all the artists. And then I can do things like console log still the adlibs, right? Cool. Oh, this is cool. I use VS Code. So if you hover over functions, it'll show you all the possible outputs. It's pretty dope. I can see all that stuff. Yes.
Does the file we are exporting get essentially written into the file we are importing?
Mm-hmm. That's a good question. So as soon as you go var hip hop require, right? As soon as you do var hip hop require, Node is going to hop over to here, right, and start running this script from top all the way down to bottom, right? So what I have is I'm declaring an array. Let me just run this real quick just to show you. So we get the array, and we also get the relevant adlib. But if I put like a console log statement somewhere in here, you're in hip hop. If I put a console log statement inside of the module, right, and I run my app.js, right, that console log statement, whoops, will run. No, I didn't like personally ask for it to be called specifically, right? So as soon as I go require, Node is going to go over, run the entire other script, right, and then give you the result of module.exports. Right? No, that's a good question. So that's what it's going to do. It's going to go over, and one of the things that we could do maybe with modules is have secret info, right? Var Nima's secret favorite artist. It's a long, very long name, and it's going to be Taylor Swift. What, a riffraff? I respect myself. No, I'm kidding. Riffraff is great. So I'll say, okay, Nima's secret favorite artist, and maybe I'll make a like one of these instead of Nicki Minaj. It'll be Nima's secret favorite artist. Cool. And the reply here. I don't. Does Taylor Swift have adlibs? I guess not. I'm Taylor Swift. There we go. That's a good adlib, right? And the reason I'm doing this is because now if I run my app.js on Taylor Swift, like I get Taylor Swift's adlib, but in my app.js, I actually don't have access to something like hiphop.nima's favorite artist, right? That stuff has been hidden away. It's being encapsulated, right, by that module. So I only get to use the stuff that the person who made the module told me I can use, right? Does that make sense? Like if I tried to go, like Nima's secret artist is here. If I try to console log that over here, I'm gonna get a big ol' undefined. Big ol' undefined, right? Because the thing is, the person who made the module, me, didn't put Nima's secret favorite artist inside of the module.exports. But I did use it inside of the adlibs. So it's still usable inside of the functions that I export. I just don't have specific direct access to that variable. Okay? Cool. So I want you to just start thinking about how, like, as you build these programs, right, most of the stuff that you write is going to be useful for making some things work, right? But then when you want to use your functions, like there's only 3 or 4 functions that you might use. Just those 3 or 4 functions might depend on a million other things, right? So you'll export those 3 or 4 functions, and you can use them in a different file. And in that other file, you don't have to worry about the rat's nest of stuff happening in your big module, right? Cool. Excellent, yeah?
So Max is asking, can you pass parameters into a module?
Yeah, can we pass parameters into a module? Do you mean if you mean through require, like this, I'm gonna say right now, no, right? But in general, I mean, we're exporting out like a function, like adlibs is a function for me, so you would call this as adlibs on the artist name, right? Like on something. So in this way, like we are passing parameters to a function that's being exported, but as of like right now, I'm gonna say no, we can't pass parameters into like require, other than just the name of the thing that we're requiring. Yeah, I'm hand waving that because you sort of can, but we'll get into that in a little while. Just not now. Yeah, cool. Any other questions about this stuff specifically right now? Cool. Can you see the point, right, behind modules, right? Cool. I'm glad you do, because they are important, right? Because we will be using them a lot, not just not just like modules that we make, but modules that other people make, right? That's the big thing, is we're going to be using a lot of modules that other people make. And this is our transition for being, I'm stealing this from David. David said, it's our transition from being programmers, right? Because we ask you to be programmers in the first week of the boot camp, over to being application developers, right? Application developers don't program that much. We use other people's stuff, right? And we intelligently put this stuff together, right? So application developers have to become good at using other people's modules, making new modules maybe, but like integrating all that stuff together in a big system, right? And that's what we're going to get comfortable with. So let's see. I'm going to introduce one last word or phrase. We're going to take a break, and then we're going to come back and I'll show you the next like half of the thing. Yes, please.
So from Ryan,
Mm-hmm.
when we have two separate modules, like A and B, that require each other, or does there need to be a linear chain of inputs and exports?
Two separate modules that like cyclically? Well, I've never tried that before. Yeah, how about I'll try that when we take a break, right? I'll try that when we take a break to have a module that requires a module that requires the initial module. If my computer doesn't catch on fire, then I'll show you. I mean, I'll let you know what happens. That's a great question, though. I'll write that down.
That's in the Slack. We have that.
Right. Nope. Okay. So the last kind of word that I want to introduce you to before I let you take a couple minutes for a break is the idea of a function contract. So what is a contract in real life? A function. I mean, a contract is an agreement, right? A function contract is going to be an agreement about how to use a function, right? So if I'm a module developer, I make my module, I come up with the API that people are going to be able to use, right? Which is the set of things that they can use for my module. I need to tell maybe you as the developer, this is how you use my module, right? How will I do that? Documentation, that's a big one. Like I'll write it down, right? What's that? Yeah, comments. I might comment, right? And say, hey, if you want to use this thing, use it this way. But the idea that I'm getting at here is I am exposing, I'll use the word exposing to like, I'm showing you the adlibs function, right, as a thing that I'm exporting. And we need to agree that the adlibs function is used by saying, hey, name, and then I return something, right? So I'm saying the adlibs function needs to take an input, which is a string, and it outputs a string, right? We're agreeing on that. So that means that you as the developer, like you can't go adlibs and then pass in like name Kanye West like this as an object. Yeah, it's expecting Kanye West. We agree that's the contract. This is how this is going to work, right? We also agree on the output, which is if you go adlibs like this won't print anything, right? If you want to print something, you have to go console.log adlibs, and then Kanye West, right? This is how. And what we're talking about here are the inputs, the outputs, and the side effects of the function that we're running, right? So I just want you to think a little bit about this is like if we're using other people's code, right? What are the things that could possibly happen, right? How do we need to ensure that like we've agreed on the inputs and outputs? Who decides what that stuff is? I just want that kind of like rolling around in your head a little bit. Yeah, so I just wanted to introduce this. We'll come back to this when we start up again. Yeah. Any questions before I let you go for like 10 minutes? Okay, and I mean, I guess Calgary already asked a bunch of questions, but if they do, I'm still here. Is that a question?
No.
Oh, it's just stretch?
I'm ready for a break.
Yeah, I mean, you can go if you want. Yeah. Is that like a big question or a me question?
Well, if I put it in an object, the context, that's
Okay, how about I'll show that when we start up, because yeah, that's actually kind of interesting. Cool, so I'll see you in like 10 minutes.
I'm uncomfortable. They're back? Okay. I have a much more fun announcement now.
Did you unmute it?
I did unmute it. So I actually have the winners of the code challenge that Dawn is running. He could unfortunately not be here today to give it to you guys, but it is very exciting. So the winner in Calgary is Chang Shai, and clap, well done. And the winner in Vancouver is Spencer. Woohoo! So you guys are going to be getting $10 Amazon gift cards today emailed to you. So, woohoo! Look forward to that.
All right. All right. Dope. Hey everyone, welcome back. Who's ready for round 2? Yes, that's good. That is the excitement that I like to hear for JavaScript. Who here has gotten a JavaScript tattoo already? Yeah? Is that just me? Yeah. Yeah. I actually know somebody who has like a computer science tattoo. Me. Yeah. Why? It is pretty goofy, yeah, to get a CS tattoo. But if you want to do it, by all means, like I think it's kind of cool. This person has like an and on their hand, except it's a true and false, so it comes out to false. So I don't know why they would do that, but it's cool. Anyways, while we were taking a break, I only had like a minute to write out some stuff, but what I was trying to do, which I didn't actually finish, was make like a cyclical require. That was one of the questions from Calgary. So I have, if you want a job, you require experience. This is just my life. And if, so we have a job, sure. Like, let's check to see if we have both experience and a job, I guess. This module also exports a job. And then I have experience. To get experience, you require a job. And so we set experience to true, sure, and then console log experience and a job, and I would want this to print something out. Now, I know I made a typo somewhere here because the error I'm getting is not the thing I wanted to get. It's telling me it can't find the module, a job.js. It's funny because like I did call it a_job, so let's just call it a job like that, and I'm gonna rename this one to, let's see, rename. I'll put all this stuff on GitHub, by the way, so don't worry. Okay, so a job, okay, a job. All right. Oh, what? Okay. I guess one of them console logs as empty array. I mean empty object, and the other one console logs as true. So I could see like which one this is. This is when I'm in job, and this is when I'm in experience. Right? You can tune out if this doesn't like interest you because this is like actually not important. So apparently experience outputs an empty object while job outputs true. Yeah, when I run no to job. And I assume if I was to run the opposite, if I was to run experience, I don't understand this at all. It kind of outputs true and true on both. So hey, if you want to really delve into the intricacies of JavaScript, feel free to clone this and play around with it. But I'm not really going to dignify JavaScript with a response to this weird kind of stuff. Again, if you want to see how weird JavaScript is, there's the video called like what? Yeah, somebody might have already shown it. Yeah, what? It's a funny talk. It's kind of weird. But yeah, so we're gonna move on from that. Let me just close a job and experience, and we're gonna leave hip hop here for a sec. Cool. So when I left off, I was talking about a function contract. It's an agreement between the person writing the function and the person calling the function. Things that we'd have to agree on are, what is the return value? What are some side effects, right? side effects. Wait, see a job and experience. Okay. For the function contract, we'll be looking at things like what is the return value, what are the side effects, and side effect sounds like a scary word because it is, right? Like what does the function do that it's not necessarily like what we want it to do. Like if I call get me best names of dogs. Like I have a best names of dogs function, and this should return something like, hey, Dolph Lundgren is a good name for a dog, and it might also return Mary. Just good real dog names. Would it be cool also if I ran best name of dog and it ordered something on Amazon for me, and called up my mom, and probably not. That'd be a bad side effect, right? It'd be a bad side effect, right? Generally, a pure function, like purity of a function is you put something in, something comes out, and nothing else happens. And every time you call a function on that one thing, the same thing comes out, right? What's the sum of 1 plus 2? 3. Okay, let me wait a second. What is the sum of 1 plus 2? Is it still 3? It better be. That's a pure function, right? An unpure function might be, hey, what time is it right now? And I get back like 10:07, and then in 10 minutes I'm like, hey, what time is it right now? And I get 10:17. I'm like, what? That's not pure. That's different than what I'd asked before, right? So that's the purity of these functions. And purity also has to do with side effects. So put something in, something comes out, nothing else happens, right? Here's an unpure function, console.log. Because I'll say console.log, Nima is having a hard time coming up with examples, right? So here's the thing that I'm console logging. What does the console log function do? It takes input in, and then it does something in the world. It'll print something to my screen, right? And then it won't return anything, right? That's a side effect, right? It's a side effect, writing something to the screen, right? Luckily, it's something that I've agreed on with the people who made JavaScript. They're like, okay, when I go console log, write something to the screen, we've agreed on this side effect, right? And we can move on with our lives, right? Okay, so side effects. And why am I making such a big deal about this? Because we have to use other people's code all the time, right? We have to use like a hell of a lot of code that's written by other people all the time. And hopefully we all kind of like can agree on how this stuff works. I'm going to go to npm, right? npmjs.com. Now, have we used npm so far? No. We're going to use it now. Welcome to your new best friend. Or enemy. Like, really, it's up to you. I'm not telling you who to be friends with. But, like, npm stands for neglected puppy market, right? Okay, wait, maybe not. It stands for nanotechnology promises much. Narnia, protect me. You can keep, like, needs Puma managers, no painful merges, native penguin milk. That's, no. NPM stands for the node package manager, right? Package is going to be another word for module that we'll use, right? NPM, another one of those things that means a couple different things. There's NPM on your, like, computer, right? It's the NPM on the command line, which is what we're going to be using to manage our projects. And then there's the NPM registry online, right? Which is where people publish their modules. So we wrote this like hip hop module. I might publish it to NPM, and then other people can download the module, right? And we'll go through the process of that. So let's hop into my terminal. I'm going to make a new file or folder. We're going to call this one npm demo, because I'm just so clever. cd npm demo. Right? I have nothing in here right now. I go ls. I can do that as much as I want. There's nothing in there. I can go into VS Code and see that inside of npm demo, I have nothing. Cool. Now, let's say in my npm demo, I make a new file. I'll call this one index.js. Okay, I'll go console.log. Hello. I always do this just to make sure that I have everything set up. So index.js, I get hello back. Awesome. Okay. Now, I want to use some cool stuff that somebody else has made. Right? We saw that when I wanted to use cool stuff that I had made. Where'd my thing go? Whoops. Index.js. If I wanted to use cool stuff that I had made, I could go var hip hop, or cool stuff equals require, and then the path to that. So I might have had cool stuff.js somewhere, and I would make the path to that. If I want to use stuff from the internet, I can go to npm, which is on my other window. Okay, I'm logged into npm right now, so I'm going to sign out, because this is what it's going to look like for you. And we can search for packages. I might say, hey, give me, what was that? Oh, nacho portmanteau meltdown, yeah. I'll say, hey, what about, there's a package called, let's see, Sam did cowsay the other day. There's a package called cowsay. It's a configurable cow. So if I click through to it, it's a package that lets you use it by saying, let's see if there's an example, var cowsay require cowsay will console log out cowsay with the text, what the eyes are looking like, and what the tongue looks like, and it'll print out a little cow saying the thing that you said. Right? Or you can say cowsay think, and it'll be like thought bubbles. If you just say cowsay, then it comes out as like a speech bubble. Right? Very cool. So we could do cowsay. There's one that's called chalk. Chalk is pretty cool. Terminal styling done right. So you're going to be able to console log stuff with colors in it. Right? And the way that we'll be able to use this in our project, right, is we'll have to install it first with npm. Right? So you're going to see a lot of this, like npm install, right, when I'm inside of the folder that I'm working in, right, on my index.js. Npm install, and then the name of the thing that I'm installing. Right? That's a good question. So the question was, how do we look at the packages we've installed? We'll see that right now. Let me go npm install chalk. This is going to take a second, and it's going to give me a little loader and all that. And it'll say, cool, I added 7 packages. I only asked for one package, which was chalk. So if I look at my folder, I now have a thing called node modules. Right? This was a folder that didn't exist before. I also have one called package lock, which we'll look at in a sec. But if I pop open node modules, I see that there's a bunch of new things that have been brought in. Now, I only asked for chalk, right? But if I look at chalk, like chalk might require other things. So npm is going to go ahead and also bring in the other stuff that it requires until we're like, okay, we're set. We have everything that we need, right? How do we see what things require? Right? Like what they need? Well, we could go into their code and see what they require, but there's a file called package.json, right? Package.json is going to give you a big like JavaScript object notation object, right? And it's going to have some things in it. This is a very complicated one. But if we look through it, it'll have things like, hey, what's the name of the thing? What does it depend on, right? Right? When I say what does it depend on, it means what like modules or packages does it also need, right? So this one happens to need ANSI styles, escape string reject and support color with these particular versions, okay? Now I'll leave it to you to look up how to do the version numbers, okay? Because there's different kind of symbols that you can use to say something along the lines of version 1.3, or you can use a different symbol to say any version or whatever, right? Like I'll let you look into that. The idea here is, loosely, we're saying there's these dependencies, and I will create our own package JSON, which is going to be a bit simpler that we can kind of dissect. So let me delete everything. Let me delete my package lock. We haven't even looked at that yet. And let me delete the node modules. I've technically uninstalled chalk. Right? if we want to be smart about things, right, we'll create a package JSON file. So inside of the folder that I'm working in, I'll go npm init. And this is going to ask me a bunch of questions. It's going to say, hey, what do you want to call your, like, the project that you're working on right now? Do you want to call it npm demo? And I'll say yes. Do you want to start at version 1? Sure. What's the description of it? I'm like, I don't care. I'm just pressing enter a bunch. And it'll generate a package JSON file for me. Okay? That has the name and it has a description. And it doesn't currently say what my thing depends on yet. Doesn't currently say. So what I can do now is, first of all, look at the fact that I have this package JSON. Right? And if I go npm install chalk, when I run this now, in a minute, it will have added chalk as one of the dependencies in my package JSON. Cool. Right? I might also install cowsay. Cool. Now I got cowsay. Right? If I delete my node modules, where all that stuff is saved, right? And all I have is my package JSON. If I go npm just install, npm is going to look at my dependencies, resolve all of that stuff, right? And recreate the node modules for me. Holy moly, there we go. Right? So what we're going to do as we work forward is, like, the package JSON is your manifest file. This is where you say, this is where, like, these are the things that I need. Okay? This is an idea that isn't just in Node, right? One of the themes you're going to get comfortable with as we go through the bootcamp is we're going to spiral back to similar ideas more than once, right? Usually with different tools and usually with a little bit of a different perspective on it, right? So this is our first kind of introduction to making modules and using a package manager, right? When we get to Ruby in week 7, right, we'll do the same thing again, but using Ruby's version of it, right, to see that similar ideas exist across different tools, right? So that's something I want you to, like, keep in mind is, you know, even if you don't particularly like one language, right, but you like parts of it, there's definitely a way to use a different language with those fun parts that you do like, right? So yeah, we've got our dependencies, chalk, cowsay, and now if I actually wanted to use chalk, right, I would go into my index where I'm running my stuff, and I would use it by going var chalk equals something like require chalk. I don't need to give it a path anymore because it's an installed package, right? So does that answer your question about being able to see what packages we have installed? Yeah. So now I can require chalk, and I can use chalk the way that the developers tell me to, which is, oops, there you go. I'm going to change this to var. It says const. I'm writing var now, and we're going to talk about const next week. But I can require chalk, and I can use it by going chalk.blue, hello world, console log. And if I run this now, which was node index, I get it in blue, right? Whoa. And I could use whatever other, like, options they have here. They have many of them. Right? If I wanted to do cowsay, here you go. Where's this there? I have to require cowsay, oops, and then I can use it in the way that the cowsay people have said that I can use it. I got my cow, right? I'm a moodle. Or if we really wanted to be funny, like, we would, I'm not going to do this because I'm going to get lost doing it, but, like, I would bring in hip hop and make the cow go, yeah. There we go. We got our ad-libbing cow. So, you know, we're using somebody else's module. We can install modules locally, right, as part of a project, right? We can also install modules globally, right? If I go npm install something something, and then it's like a -g, right? Yeah. It will install this package not as part of our project, right? But as part of our computer, right? And we'll be able to use it anywhere, right? The thing is then, that's not going to write itself inside of our package JSON. So I won't actually know what packages I have installed globally, right? I'm saying this loosely, and I'm going to come back to this idea in a minute when I introduce the next idea. So, any questions about using other people's modules? Cool. Do you want to know about how to publish your own packages to NPM? Right? It's actually surprisingly simple. I'd never done it until yesterday. If we have our, I mean, honestly, I could just, I'll upload this entire thing. I'll go npm init -y. -y is going to say yes to everything that npm init asks me. So I'll just say y. It'll create the thing for me. And if I wanted to, oh, actually, let me delete npm the package JSON. 1 second. rm package JSON. Okay, so you can do this thing where I'm namespacing my package. Don't worry about the specifics, but I'm giving my package the name Nima Boscarino / modules testing notes. Cool. And then it asks me to do a bunch of things. I'll just go yes, 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 yes. Okay, cool. And now, if I ever want to publish, I can go npm publish and tell it, make it a public thing. And it'll zip it all up. It'll put it up online. And once it's being pushed, I can legit go to npm and say, hey, can you show me Nima Boscarino modules testing notes? And anybody can use this now. Literally anybody can use. I'm not logged in right now. I searched myself, right? Anybody can use this by going npm install. Let me copy this. Oh my god. Okay, whatever. I copy this. I can go anywhere inside of, in my computer, and I could go npm install. Actually, what was the name? Nima Boscarino modules testing notes, and it will download it as a package. Which I have under my I have a node modules folder now. So if I go cd node modules, I have Nima Boscarino in there with the modules testing notes. Just wanted to show you that as you go through this, if you come up with cool module ideas, publish them, make them, right? And you can end up with this person, Cinder Sorhis, the reigning monarch of modules. Cinder Sorhis, you're gonna see this name pop up, kind of. You know that Jim Carrey movie where you keep seeing the number 23 or whatever, right? 23, right? As you journey as a developer, you're gonna see Cinder Sorhis, Cinder Sorhis. Just you'll hear it, right? And you'll start looking into this person, and they're they're a full-time open source person. They have thousands and thousands of projects that people actually use everywhere. Chalk was made by this person, right? XO, which is a test runner, was made by this person. But I don't know, it's the weirdest thing. You'll be going through the darkest, deepest forums, and you'll suddenly see Cinder Sorhis. And you're like, who is this? Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this person lives in, I don't think they sleep. I think they honestly just code. No contributions on one day, you slacker. But Cinder Sorhis is a really interesting website, and I really recommend looking into their, they have a blog somewhere.
Is he a full-time open source developer? Does he get sponsorships, or how does he accumulate wealth?
He has a Patreon, I think. Yeah, he has something like a Patreon where people pay money for him to keep working on that stuff, and I don't think he even does contract stuff anymore. Yeah, there's a cool AMA that they did. There we go. Yeah, if you read their AMA on Medium, it's really interesting to go into, and they talk all about how they got into just developing lots of little modules, right? Oh yeah, they're they backpack and stuff. They're pretty cool. But they develop a lot of really tiny little modules, and they'll publish them, right? And each of these modules does one thing, right? It's one function that does one specific thing, or a collection of functions that all are tuned to do one specific thing, right? That are very, very reusable. right? So I'm trying to motivate this idea of like, make small little things that are reusable. If you want, publish them, but like for your own sake, right? You can keep yourself sane, right? And keep your code clean by bringing in small, concise pieces of code and plug this stuff together like Legos, right? Build up to something bigger, right? Don't have one big file. One big file where you do everything? No, that's bad. That's confusing. It's a lot of scrolling. It's going to hurt your fingers, right? Like, move the stuff into separate things. Yes?
Do you have to require files at the top of the, or at the top of your index?
You don't specifically have to require it at the top, but you do have to require them before you use them, right? Generally, you'll do it at the top because why not? Yeah. So, is that we've done NPM stuff, we've pushed. I was really happy when this worked, and as of yesterday, I'm like, I'm gonna be like Cindersaurus, and I'm also gonna go live in wherever they are now. Bangkok, man, good for them. Like they're living the life. Yeah, I just scroll through this person's stuff, being like, how do you get so good? Anyways, I mean, you get good by like working a lot, but how do you get good faster? So the last thing that I want to talk about is testing. And this is like fairly important, right? So if you've like dozed off a little bit, that's fine, right? Now it's time to like come back online, right? Testing. I might have written a module, and I did. Look at me. I'm Cindersaurus. Well, maybe not yet. But I've written my module, which is my hip-hop. I'm going to delete these node modules because it's telling me I have like 189 changed files, and that just angers me. Like, I don't like this number being more than like 4. So there we go. And this is going to go back to 12. That's okay. All right, so I have my hip-hop thing. I'm going to move hip-hop into its own file so we can work nice and clean. You make a new folder. Hip-hop. Let me just move this out. Okay, so I have hip-hop. I'm going to move this file into there. And I had, no, okay. And then I had my app.js where I was using the hip-hop stuff. I'm going to move that into there as well. I'm just doing this to keep things nice and clean. Let me close that. Okay, so as it is right now, I have all the stuff that makes hip-hop work, right? And I'm exporting the stuff, and I'm using it somewhere. Cool. But if I want to test to see if this stuff works properly, right, I have to write some tests. And I'll go, okay, let's make a new file. Let's call this tests.js. Cool. And I'll require in hip-hop. And I'll go, hey, how is hip-hop meant to be used? Well, it might be something like, okay, if I go, give me the ad-libs of Mos Def, right? Is that equal to bucka, buck, bucka, bucka, right? Like, are these two things equal, right? And I'll want to console log that maybe and say, okay, if I've done things properly, then this should be true, right? So let me just, where was I? CD, talking about module testing notes, okay. Okay, so I can now run my tests. I can go, hey, let's go node tests.js, and, whoops, adlibs is not defined because I forgot to go var adlibs equals hiphop.adlibs. Okay. Great. So now if I run this, I get cool, true, right? So adlibs Mos Def does equal bucka, bucka, buck, bucka, right? What if I went into my hip-hop and I changed this to something else? Hey, right? Now my tests should no longer pass. And now I get false, right? So ideally, I might make a bunch of these. Whoops. Okay, I might make a bunch of these saying, okay, let's do one for Nikki, and we'll do one for Lady leisure. And they'll all say different things, right? So this would be something, and this would be something else. Let me just fix most def there. There you go, right? And then I would just run the tests again and say, okay, node tests, cool, the first one is right? And the other two are false, which means there's something wrong with that code. This is a boring way to do stuff, right? I'm gonna have to run the tests every time, and then I don't really get much information out of this. True, false, false. I have to go into here and look at, okay, the first one was this one, the second one was this one. Do you imagine how much of a pain it would be if you had like 1,000 tests, right? Which you should have. Like you should have a lot of tests, right? I might go into my console log and say, okay, well, let's do print out most def before. So then when I run this, I'll see, okay, most def, true, right? Nicki Minaj, false, whatever. But it's, again, just unwieldy. So what we'll do is we'll use a module, right? We'll use somebody's work, and we'll do that. We'll go Mocha.js. So Mocha is a test framework for running Node.js. What we'll do is we're going to write tests. We're going to go Mocha, and it's going to run all the tests for us, right? It's going to print them out nice, like nice and pretty, right? And there's going to be a nice way to write the tests, right? So there's something just, to me, kind of weird about having to write all these console logs with these triple equal signs, right? And it's just like, to me, it's kind of crazy. What Mocha lets us do is, it'll let us write tests like this. And now, I know the first time you look at this, it'll look a little weird, right? Just want to draw your attention to the English words. We're describing how an array works, right? I'll talk about how the code works in a sec, but I just want to like skim through it. We're describing how an array works. Specifically, we're describing how the index of function works for arrays. It should return -1 when the value is not present. Let's assert that these two things are equal, right? There's something like semantic about it that comes out, right? I can like read this, right? And when we run it in the terminal, when we run our program, our testing program, that I'll show in a sec, it will print out something along the lines of this. Hey, for array, the index of function, it does return -1 when the value is not present, right? So all of this nice formatting is done by Mocha for us. The way we use Mocha is we have to start off by installing it. Okay. So we'll go in our thing. I'll go, first I'll do npm init, just so I have a package JSON. I'll install Mocha, which was just written as Mocha. Cool. In a second, I'll have a package JSON that says Mocha in it. There you go. Mocha is a dependency. Now, I only want to run tests when I'm developing, right? If I'm giving this code to a client, like they don't need all the tests, right? Because they're like bloats, right? There's some things that I only want to have when I'm developing, and in my production version, right? I don't need these like development dependencies, right? Development dependencies. I don't need them, right? And there's a word for that in NPM. We'll call them dev dependencies. Okay. So right now I've installed Mocha as a dependency, and I'm like, oh wait, I don't want to ship this thing with Mocha. Let me uninstall first. So I'll go npm uninstall Mocha. This is going to take a second, and it'll like remove itself from my node modules and from my dependencies. And I can install this as a dev dependency by going npm install save dev. There you go, save dev. Cool, now it's installed itself as a dev dependency, which means when somebody gets this package and they download it, like they don't get the dev dependencies, they just get the things that they need, right? There's special ways of being able to download also the dev dependencies. Cool. So we'll do Mocha as a dev dependency. It's in, like, it's somewhere in here. I think I have to, whoop. Let's just assume it's there. I bet it's there. Yeah, I think it's a hidden. Oh, there we go. No, I just had to refresh a couple times, and now yeah. So under my node modules, I have all the stuff that Mocha depends on. So here's Mocha, and these are all the other things that it depends on. Like your node modules is going to get really big. So I've got Mocha, and now what I can do is I can say, hey, in my scripts for my package JSON, right? Package JSON has a thing called scripts, right? And these are all the scripts that we can make. I'll say, hey, when we go npm run test, let's run the command Mocha. Cool.
It's in the browser as opposed to
Mhm.
the node.
Mhm.
Would it just console log out of the same way, or would it just in the actual browser console?
So if it's in the browser as opposed to Node, yeah, it should console log to the browser console. Yeah, to be honest, I don't think I've ever used Mocha in the browser before. I've just never had to. But that's a good thing to try out. But now I have access to being able to go, hey, npm run test, and it'll run Mocha. Now, right now, there's no test files. Right? So if I go npm run test, it'll be like, hey, I can't find any test files matching like that pattern. Like the pattern of just test everything. Or you can go just npm test without the word run in it. But if I was to make some tests and put them under the folder test, which is where Mocha is going to by default look, right? So I'm going to go under hip hop. I'm going to make a folder called test. Was it test? Yeah, test. I'll take my, whoop, no, don't, oh my God. Okay. Take my tests and I'll put them in here. Let's move them. Under tests, I'm going to rename this just to test to, because I like that better. My paths for hip hop are going to be a little different. It can be dot dot. I'm going up one to get hip hop because I've moved into a folder. And now what I can do is I can start doing some assertions. So let me literally just copy the code over right now. Require. And the thing that I pasted in was, hey, let's first require assert. Right? Now, did I ever npm install assert? No. But this is a thing that Node gives us. It's one of those default packages that we have access to. Right? We're going to see a bunch of these as we kind of move along over the course of the bootcamp. So I'm going to require assert. And now let me just run the test that they have right now. So I'll console log everything else out. And in here, when I go npm run test, it's going to go ahead and run the test. And it says, hey, yeah, array index of does return -1 when the value is not present. Right? And I can, customize this to my liking. I'll say, you can nest these describes as like a couple levels. I'm just going to do 1. So I'm pretty sure this still works. Cool. So I might say something like, hey, for hip hop, let's describe how the hip hop ad-libs work. The ad-libs, it should say, oops, bucka, bucka, bucka. Oh, there's a buck in there too. Bucka, buck, bucka, when the artist is most deaf. And you can make this stuff like long. You're like actually writing a description for yourself. So just be as descriptive as you can. And I'll say, hey, we're asserting the equality of ad-libs for most deaf. We're asserting that that is equal to the string bucka, buck, bucka, bucka. Okay, make this a little bit bigger so we can see the whole thing. Okay, right? And now if I run this, it's going to check. Yeah, cool. The hip hop ad-libs are right. Like all the tests pass. If I make another one here, so I'll make a new it, right? It should say, what was Nikki's? Yeah, oh, I guess I took Nikki out. I turned it to Nima's secret favorite artist. So we'll say, it should say that when the artist is and I try that out. And try this one as well. And, big surprise, when I run this, both the tests are going to pass. And it'll tell me 2 passing, and it took 10 milliseconds. Cool, right? I might have 1,000 tests, right? It might take a second or something. Yeah.
You have 1,000 tests, but maybe some of your tests take like all of them for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Do you keep those all in the same file, or is the regular stuff developing, or
Mm.
file? How would you organize that?
That's a good question. So the question was, if you have like a bunch of tests, some of the tests use functions that have really long callbacks and just a bunch of stuff, do you keep it all in one file? You mean like one big tests file?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like you export all the stuff.
Yeah, you can have one master test file if you want that requires in a bunch of test modules, right? You can have a bunch of different test files and set up different scripts to only run the ad-libs tests and then only run the lyrics tests or whatever, right? Depending on what you're working on, right? You can modularize your tests, right? That's the theme of being a developer, is just modularize, right? Make things simpler and simpler and simpler by breaking things down into components and just working on little things at a time, right? So right now I'm working on just one test thing, but if you read into Mocha, you'll see that there's ways of running specific tests. So not just like all the tests, you can run some tests, right? And say I had this wrong, by the way, like say my adlib was not equal to the thing that I was asserting for. Just wanted to show that the test will fail, and it'll give you a big old error, right? And it'll say, hey, this is what happened, right? On this particular, let me scroll down a little bit. This particular one failed. It'll give me a summary of 1 test passed and 1 failed. And the one that failed, here is the specific information. We expected it to say this. What we actually got was this, right? It was an assertion error. And then in case you really didn't get it, oh my God, you have an error, right? Like 18 times, right? You can't miss it, right? Yes?
So if you did modularize something, you can export a specific block you described, and then you execute an actual statement that required copy from all blocks.
Yeah. So I would maybe have a bunch of different files, right? Have this thing done inside of I'm gonna write a bunch of stuff, but like, oh yeah, I'm gonna work into the question. So the question's about how to modularize your tests. There's many ways of doing it. The way that I might intuitively do it is go tests for adlibs. I'd put this into here, like this, and then I would module.exports all my tests for adlibs, like that. And then wherever I import all my adlib tests, then I'd be able to go something like tests for adlibs, like that, to run all the tests whenever I want them to, right? Yeah, you can kind of customize that pattern up to like what really works for you. Yeah, we can take a bit more of a look at that later. That's, yeah. Cool. So let me just undo, because I wanted to, yeah, so we're running our tests. They work. I highly recommend writing tests. Write them, please. I might even suggest doing tests before you write the code, right? So if the question says, oh, hey, make a function that does this, you know what you do first? You go, okay, let's describe the exercise 2.5 or whatever you're working on. It should reverse an array. Cool. Assert equal that reverse of 1, 2, 3 is 3, 2, 1. Cool. Now, let's say I have some reverse function, that takes in an array and it just returns back the same array right now. So it doesn't actually do anything. Like, it just returns the same array back. When I run my test, let me comment out this one here. When I run my test, I get back the fact that no, I expected 1, 2, 3 to be 3, 2, 1, right? The only one that was right was apparently somewhere in the number. But like then I would now be able to go ahead and say, oh, okay, like let's go r dot reverse. I've implemented, okay, I haven't implemented my function. How do we do, is it array dot reverse r, like something like that? Nah. But you see the thing I'm running into, right? You see my point. Like, I can now spend the 50 minutes trying to figure out how to make my array get reversed, right? And I have this check here that when I've got it, it will tell me good job, and I get the green letters, and I go woo, and I move on, right? Yeah, it's almost like your development is driven by testing. Wow, let's patent that. Let's call it test pushed. Test driven development. I like that. Cool. Oh snap. Well, okay. There's a test dash driven development, but maybe we can patent it without a dash, right? Yeah. So test driven development exists. It's a thing, right? Look into it. Really, I recommend living by it. It'll make your life a lot easier. Write tests. And what I didn't really talk about very much was I wrote this assert equal, right? There's other asserts, right? We could look into what assert actually is. So I Googled assert.js, gone to the assert documentation, right? And it'll tell me that, okay, well, you can do assert deep equal, assert fail, assert equal, assert not deep, strict equal, right? I don't know what this is, but I can click through it and see if it's something that I actually care about, right? So you don't just have to assert that things are good. You can also assert that things don't work, right? That's sometimes worth checking. Like, oh, if the user tries to log in with a wrong password, like, don't let them log in, right? Assert that doesn't work, right? Cool. And you're not stuck, like, in the same way that you're not stuck with Mocha as your test runner. Like, if you really like Cinder Sorhus, you could go to Ava tests. Like, Cinder made their own test runner with a better logo. There you go. See? The Ava test runner, and it has, little things, and it's like fancy. It still runs tests. It's going to work pretty much exactly the same way. And if you don't like the way assert works, right, there's a thing called chai. Right? Chai is an assertion library to replace the default assert, right? And it's just a bunch of different ways of writing things that end up turning into trues and falses. So here's like, say you didn't like assert equal. Maybe with chai, you'd like to say, hey, expect foo to equal bar, right? This functionally does the same thing as this. It just looks different, and you might like it better, just in the way that you write the tests. You might like to write foo should equal bar, right? Because again, that just looks nicer to you. No actual difference, right? It's just, if you're writing a bunch of tests, why not write it in a language that, like, feels natural to you?
I feel like what you're trying to get at is like some of these packages that we might find might be a little bit more intuitive on how we use it.
Exactly.
And that it's probably more beneficial for us to find one that kind of complements that and makes it easier for us to run these tests without kind of confusing ourselves.
Mhm.
Is that what we're
Yeah, so for Calgary, the idea is there's all these different packages, right? Some of them might be more intuitive or more in tune with what we want to do, right? There's a lot of overlap in this stuff, right? Play around, right? That's the nice thing about all these modules. They're online, they're free, they don't cost any money, they're not going to burn you or whatever. Like, just download them, play with them, right? And find stuff that you like. I mean, development is all about like customizing, and I have, like, I customized my terminal. I have a little ASCII fish. Right, I use the fish console, and I think if I do, oh man, I have a command for like logo, but I can't, fish logo. It prints out a little fish, right? Now this is a stupid kind of example of customization, right? Yeah, but it's fun. Cool. Yeah, so that's really it as far as content there. Use chai for assertions. I just wanted to talk to you about the mock test that you'll be doing. You're going to have a bunch of failing assertions, right? So you're going to have some code that doesn't work, a bunch of assertions that test that code and they all fail. and you're going to have to go through and implement code that makes the assertions pass. You're going to be doing test-driven development. And I just wanted to give you a heads up of that's the thing that we're going to be doing. All right. Was that a question? Oh, you like sat up, and I was like, oh, that's like, you know when somebody's about to go for like a three-pointer and you see it in their eyes? I thought you had like one of those questions. It's okay. Next time. Cool. So, and any questions from Calgary? Great. In that case, I'll let you all roll. And we're like 10 minutes ahead, well, 9 minutes ahead of schedule. Cool. Thanks, everyone. I'll be around for the rest of the day. So, yeah. Peace. No problem. Oh, and the notes will be up later. I just need to finish putting them together. Yeah. Nice. Okay. No questions. Thank you so much for watching the thing, by the way.